Basically, we are a division here in Geneva that is part of a larger office for Disarmament Affairs in New York. Our main office is in New York, and we have what I would call an outpost here in Geneva. Our work here covers basically, and that is a principal organization here in Geneva, the Conference on Disarmament. In addition, we do a lot of work on humanitarian legal bodies like the Ottawa Treaty, the Oslo Treaty, the certain conventional weapons with all its protocols, and small arms and light weapons. Why we do it here in Geneva is because we do have a large disarmament community, basically here and across the street. The Swiss authorities are very keen on keeping Geneva as a hub for disarmament affairs, and that's why the Conference on Disarmament is also very important, despite all the problems that it is encountering these days. We are a limited number of persons here. I think in total we are only 12, and but we do have a lot of issues on our hands. It's the single negotiating body in the field of disarmament. It is the only body within the UN context that can negotiate new legal arrangements in the field of disarmament and non-proliferation. In the beginning I said that the conference was having a number of problems. One of the problems is that we have not been able to agree on what we should negotiate for quite a number of years, exactly 15 years at this moment. Since 1996, that was the end of negotiations of the CTBT, the Comprehensive Disarmament Treaty. We had a revival in '98, but that didn't last very long. And we had another revival in 2009 when we had an agreement to negotiate a fissile material cut-off treaty for nuclear weapons. But that was not very successful either. So basically, from the CTBT negotiations until now, we have been at a standstill. We have not been negotiating anything at all. And some members of the CD, and we're 65 in total, are starting to question the existence even of the Conference on Disarmament. Bearing in mind that we are in a financial, economical bind at the moment. Even in the United Nations we have zero growth budget, we have to save money about everywhere. And if people see what has been spent on the Conference on Disarmament without really proceeding to its mandate that has been given to the conference, then some countries are starting to question the existence of this body. In addition, we are only 65 members, and the Conference on Disarmament is paid by the entire membership of the United Nations. So all the members pay for this select club, if I may call it, and it is not producing anything at this moment. Now, that doesn't mean that the Conference on Disarmament is not doing anything. As a matter of fact, we meet on a regular basis. Basically, we meet at least once a week. We have very frank, open discussions about a number of security issues in the world, and we're constantly trying to converge the different points of views of the members in the conference to make sure that at one point in time we can agree on a program of work that will allow us to start negotiations. The first issue, the most important issue on the table at this moment, is the fissile material cut-off treaty. The overwhelming majority of the conference is pro the beginning of negotiations to stop the production of highly enriched uranium and plutonium. We do have a number of meetings within the Conference on Disarmament and outside the United Nations, organized by members of the Conference on Disarmament, on technical issues, on scope, on definitions, on verification, on a number of issues related to a fissile material treaty, so that if the time comes that we do have an agreement on a program for that, we can start off right away and we can conclude an arrangement as soon as possible. But at the moment it doesn't look that way, that we'll get to an agreement. There is at least one country that is not agreeing to a ban on the production of fissile material. We have been very successful in the past, and that's why the CD has a big importance and is very well known in the disarmament community. We have concluded Biological Weapons Convention, we have concluded Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, we have concluded the Non-Proliferation Treaty. That was a predecessor of the Conference on Disarmament, but it's basically a similar body. Because the Conference on Disarmament started to exist as from 1978, but we had different bodies preceding the Conference on Disarmament who were also mandated to negotiate issues. So we have concluded the Chemical Weapons Convention, it's a very important treaty as well. So we have been quite successful, and I feel that some countries are right when they say, well, we cannot negotiate treaties all the time. There has to be a pause in between. We have to look at the international security situation outside of the conference. We do not exist in isolation. We live in the real world here. So some countries insist on patience, wait until the political will is there, wait until the situation is ripe to start negotiations. But as I said, other countries are getting increasingly impatient with the standstill in the conference, and they want to take action. Where will the action take us? There are a number of proposals in the pipeline. One of the ideas is that the General Assembly would take up its mandate given to it through the Charter of the United Nations and start negotiations on a certain number of issues, not only on fissile material, although, as I said, it's the most important one and the most crucial one at this moment. The General Assembly doesn't have the consensus rule, which is blocking progress here in the Conference on Disarmament. It has a majority rule, and it would be easier to negotiate treaties. Would it be better suited to negotiate? It's a very good question. At this moment we have a meeting ongoing on a arms trade treaty in the General Assembly. I don't know how successful it's going to be, but it will certainly be an indicator for the Conference on Disarmament and how to pursue negotiations in the future. If the ATT is not successful, maybe that will stop the process to move outside the Conference on Disarmament. If the ATT Arms Trade Treaty is successful in the end, then maybe people will be inclined to support the move to move outside of the Conference on Disarmament. We personally, we in the United Nations, we support the Conference on Disarmament as a body. It is an incredibly important body, and we would like to see it continue to exist, and we will do everything that is within our powers to revitalize the body. That is not me, I'm the Secretary of the Conference on Disarmament. That is also my director here, who is Deputy Secretary General, and the Director General, who is Secretary General of the Conference. Those people are doing their utmost to try to put this Conference on Disarmament back on the tracks. But as I said, there is only so much we can do, because it is the members of the conference who decide on how and when to make progress. It's not the Secretariat per se. We can only help them as much as we can, but we cannot twist any arms, and we will not do that anyway. I'm Valere Mantels, I'm a Senior Political Affairs Officer, I'm the Secretary of the Conference on Disarmament, and I also coordinate the Fellowship on Disarmament training program for junior diplomats.